Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the White Coat Ceremony for the class of 2024 of Florida Atlantic University's Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. As the Senior Associate Dean for Student Affairs, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to this very special virtual White Coat Ceremony. Typically, our White Coat Ceremony is held in our K Auditorium with friends, family, and faculty members, and we have the opportunity to cloak every matriculating student, but as you know, these times are not typical. We are adapting to our new mode of existence. This includes hosting our first ever virtual White Coat Ceremony. There will be some limitations, but we will do our best to provide our matriculants a memorable ceremony. We are very fortunate to have so many people that are so much a part of our Schmidt College of Medicine community. We would like to acknowledge members of the Florida State Legislature, city and county governments, as well as members of the FAU leadership, FAU Board of Trustees, and College of Medicine Advisory Board who are watching from their homes. We also would like to acknowledge and thank our partner hospitals and members of our affiliate and full-time faculty who contribute so much to enrich the education of our students. And most importantly, these are the most important people here today, the members of the class of 2024, and we welcome all of you. Thank you for joining us today. The White Coat Ceremony, you should know about it. It's a symbolic event that was established in 1993 after a group of distinguished physicians, medical educators, and community leaders formed the Arnold P. Gold Foundation. The foundation concluded that the beginning of a student's journey into medicine is the best time to influence standards of professionalism, humanistic values, and behavior. More than 140 medical schools in the United States hold white coat ceremonies, and we are thrilled to be celebrating our 10th consecutive ceremony with you today.
Good afternoon. As Dean, it's my honor and privilege to officially welcome our new students into the practice of medicine. Today's ceremony reminds us that the central value of healthcare is humanism, a value that aligns with our college's core mission of developing humanistic physicians. What does it mean to provide humanistic healthcare? A previous study identified 3 attitudes and behaviors that are central to this practice. First, humanistic physicians approach patients with a sense of humility and real curiosity about their lives. Second, humanistic physicians treat patients as they themselves would wish to be treated. And third, humanistic physicians understand that their role is not only to take care of the patient's medical needs, but to help them through life struggles by understanding their social and community context. And yet, this is only part of what it means to be a humanistic physician. Indeed, the commitment of humanistic physicians doesn't end with their own patients, but rather it extends to advancing the health of all patients, especially those in our most vulnerable communities. The fact that we're meeting today virtually because of an ongoing pandemic reminds us of this obligation. Indeed, the pandemic has exposed widespread healthcare disparities that are entrenched in systemic racism. As the newest members of the Schmidt College of Medicine, you are joining a community that is committed to addressing healthcare disparities, to promoting social justice, and to confronting discrimination and bias. I am delighted to welcome you into our vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community, and excited that you're joining us as we carry out this important work. In closing, you are entering medicine at an unprecedented time that presents daunting challenges and unparalleled opportunities. As you don your white coats today, and each day forward, remember your commitment to ensuring humanistic healthcare for all patients. Congratulations to the class of 2024, and welcome to the Schmidt College of Medicine family.
Welcome, class of 2024. Congratulations to you and your families on this meaningful, memorable, and momentous day. You couldn't be entering the medical profession at a more critically important time. We need all of you with your bright minds and your diverse skills and talents to help us advance scientific and clinical knowledge. We need your help to care for patients and communities. We need your passion, enthusiasm, and dedication to making a difference. And amidst challenge and uncertainty, we need your flexibility, resilience, and your courage to embrace change, even if that change is nothing we would have ever wished for or could have ever even imagined. Yet with change comes great opportunity, the ability to think about things and do things in new and different ways. Over the past few months, it has been inspirational to witness the teamwork and ingenuity that has emerged from our faculty, staff, and students as we have transformed the way we teach to keep everyone safe. At the College of Medicine, we have always believed in harnessing innovation to build educational excellence. And these unprecedented circumstances have given us the opportunity to put our skills and creativity to the test. We have exponentially increased the integration of technology and online interactive activities into our curriculum. Engaging small group multidisciplinary teaching rounds are now conducted virtually. Platforms like WebEx, Zoom, and Microsoft Teams have become essential daily components of our educational efforts and online clinical skills training. Amazingly, we have found silver linings in this new way of teaching, and I feel confident that with our adept and innovative faculty, our medical students will continue to receive an exceptional education at FAU. We are also doing everything we can to foster the warm, close-knit, family-feeling community that is the hallmark of our College of Medicine. It is more important than ever that we continue to train future physicians and scientists. Nothing has made me prouder than watching firsthand as our FAU medical students step up to contribute and make a difference in any way they can, through clinical work, volunteer efforts, advocacy, education, and research. Our next generation of physicians has many challenges to overcome, but we are inspired by the healthcare workers battling tirelessly on the front lines of this pandemic, and by doctors like Dr. Tweedy fighting for an end to racism, bias, and disparities. Through them, we see resilience rather than defeat. Through them, we see the power of working together with courage and camaraderie. So as you put on your brand new white coat today, with its weight of responsibility, but also with its promise of hope and opportunity, feel proud because you are joining the community of healthcare heroes. You are our future. I am honored to welcome you. I and our amazing faculty and staff will be proudly watching, supporting, and guiding you to become the talented and dedicated physicians you are destined to be. I know you will all make us and your families incredibly proud in this noble and rewarding profession. Congratulations again, class of 2024, and welcome.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Kay, and John and I are excited to be hosting our 10th consecutive opportunity to thank all our White Coats donors. How wonderful to hear from Dean Boiselle and Drs. Markowitz and Wood. There are many firsts this year. It's our first White Coats for Care thank you event, combined with the students' actual White Coat ceremony. And it's the first virtual event where all our donors can witness this special ceremony. During our brief remarks, everyone is able to view a series of slides listing our dedicated host committee and all of our generous donors this year. Apologies for those making very recent gifts, as we could only add names up to last Friday. But know all of you are valued and thanked wholeheartedly. And this gratitude is focused in one direction: welcoming these amazing medical students to our community. Now please welcome Dr. Stuart Markowitz, who has been with us from year one.
My first hearty thank you is to Bonnie and John, who have chaired this amazing fundraising program from the outset, and their hard-working committee. It is hard to believe that 10 years have gone by, and with your leadership in that time, our community has raised over $600,000 to welcome nearly 600 medical students. This is something very special. We cannot mention all donors by name, but I wish to call out some very special donations this year. Our unique White Coat Society, which includes donors who make 4-year pledges to follow one student throughout medical school, and we welcome Diane Frank for that. Huge thanks to Baptist Health's Boca Raton Regional Hospital and Bethesda Health for being our largest corporate donor this year. And heartfelt gratitude to Constance and Thomas Scott for their special 10th anniversary pledge. As in recent years, many of you have made larger gifts of $1,000 and more. Scholarship funds are more crucial than ever, enabling our students to follow their hearts, not their debts, into careers of compassion and care. For the second time this year, with our founding advisory board chairman Michael Dennis's leadership, the Palm Beach County Medical Society and Palm Beach County Medical Society Services Board have all donated to our students their first stethoscopes. Thank you so much for that. Our students will so appreciate that. We will close this segment first with a brief student thank you video to be followed by remarks from Dr. Michael Dennis.
Because of you, I'm wearing this white coat, and I'm going to pursue a career in a life-saving field that provides my own life with meaning, while at the same time building a future for my family.
Because of you, I am wearing this white coat, along with the promise of providing compassionate and humanistic care. I wear my white coat proudly, and thank you for the opportunity to walk alongside with and learn from others wearing this white coat as well.
Because of you, I am wearing this white coat and can achieve my dreams and make my family proud.
Thank you, Dr. Markowitz. The leadership of the Dean, your administration, and faculty members is absolutely remarkable. It has been my humbling privilege to chair the advisory board of the medical school since its accreditation in 2011. And during this relatively brief time, the school has become one of the best in Florida and is gaining great respect throughout the country. We are able to attract excellent students. This incoming class is a perfect example of that high quality, and it has been the primary mission of the board to obtain scholarship funding for them to facilitate their education. From my experience as a trustee of FAU, I've been able to acknowledge the impact the success of the College of Medicine has made on the university's reputation. So it is with the deepest gratitude that I express appreciation to the board, the Ks, and the countless donors who have made this scholarship fundraising program a resounding success. My focus has always been to support and welcome our amazing students. And in my role as president of the Palm Beach County Medical Society Services Board, in addition to being involved in the provision of stethoscopes to every entering student, it has been my pleasure to give each one a full 4-year membership in the Medical Society. It is important they feel an essential part of the medical care system from the very beginning. This is the first virtual white coat ceremony, but one can still feel the intense excitement and enthusiasm as these treasured students begin their commitment to improving the health care of everyone. A huge, warm welcome to the class of 2024.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis. As we wrap up our donor thank you, please look at the slide for this year's tally. We wish that everyone stays safe, and we all look forward to celebrating in person in 2021. Finally, from the entire White Coats for Care community, we want the class of 2024 to know that this is truly their new home. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks to Dr. Markowitz, Dr. Caceres, Dr. Wood, Dr. Borzell, Mrs. Duran, and the rest of the FAU family for entrusting me to deliver this message to you as you begin your medical school journey. Early this week, I had the pleasure of engaging with this group in a virtual session. During that time, we discussed my 2015 book, Black Man in a White Coat, and its relevance to our current times, where COVID-19 is disproportionately harming minority communities, and our country is reckoning anew with the joint legacies of slavery and Jim Crow segregation. I'll have a bit more to say on both of these later. So it's been 24 years since I put my white coat on for the first time. And even though mine was a little bit too short and a little too baggy at the time, I remember very well the white coat ceremony and putting it on and going to the wards the first time a few months later. So during that first occasion on the ward, I remember we walked into a room and it was an older African-American woman. And the very first thing she said to me was, "Son, I think you need a tailor for that coat of yours there." So after that little initial embarrassment, we sat down and talked, and I spent the next hour learning about her medical history and her life outside the hospital, as I learned the basics of how to take a medical history. After I was done, she said to me that I had a lot of potential and that one day I could do a lot of good to help the community. And it was at that point that I knew that the white coat had allowed me entry into a new world, and my life would never quite be the same again. So with the time I have today, I'd like to talk a little bit about my journey in medical school and beyond, and give you some lessons that I think will be instructive for you. So we'll start with lesson number 1. Use past mistakes and failures as motivation for future success. So last year, I was the co-recipient of Duke's Humanism in Medicine Award, which was given to recognize compassion and sensitivity in the delivery of healthcare. Well, if you were to hit the rewind button 20 years earlier, I would have been the student least likely to receive that award one day. Early in my second year, I was on a psychiatry rotation at the State Psychiatric Facility, which is about 20 minutes north of campus. and I was miserable. I entered medical school wanting to become a orthopedic surgeon or cardiologist, and psychiatry was dead last on my list of potential options. The patients there at the psychiatric facility were very sick, and it was hard to interact with them in a way in which I perceived as normal. And so at the end of the rotation, I had the final exam. I had to meet with a patient, a brand new patient to me, and also interviewing this person in front of a psychiatrist who's also unknown to me. And I'll just say that this did not go well. So the patient spoke very slowly, and I found myself cutting him off and finishing his sentences and looking down at my notes and not looking up at him. It was an all-around mess, just to put it bluntly. And at the end of the session, the patient went back to his room, and I had to speak with the psychiatrist to discuss possible diagnoses and treatments in a sort of the medical language that I was learning at the time. And so after I was done, the professor said, what field do you want to go into? And of course I answered, orthopedic surgery or cardiology. And then he looked and he smiled and said, in the nicest way that he could, that he thought I should become a doctor who doesn't actually interact with living people at all. So, yikes. Clearly not the impression that you'd want to make on your psychiatry rotation. But the part of me was also very dismissive and thinking, what is this guy? He's a psychiatrist. What does he know about anything? But another part of me knew that I could do better and I had done a very good job. And so I took it to heart, and over the rest of that next year, I really just tried hard and hard to get better at interviewing patients. And by the end of that clinical year, I finished on a general internal medicine rotation, and there I received very high marks for my ability to establish rapport with patients. And this continued throughout the rest of medical school, this sort of pattern of being received as doing very well with interviewing people and getting to know them. And by the time I was applying for residency, I was considered a very strong applicant, and I matched in internal medicine at Duke with the plan to become a cardiologist, of course. But as you guys know, I'm a psychiatrist. So that leads me to lesson number 2, which is lesson number 2, be flexible and open to what life brings your way. So some of you may already know what you want to do. I thought I did. But one morning, as a medical intern, I was called down to the emergency department for a new admission. Now this patient's primary concerns were psychiatric, but he had some medical problems at the time that prevented him from going directly to the psychiatric ward. And so as I walked in to meet this person, I was blindsided that I recognized him. I was like, who is this? And it was actually someone that I knew from when I was a young medical student and he was an undergraduate. We had played basketball together in the campus gym several times, and a few times we'd even socialized among a group of us away from campus. So how could he be so sick? What had happened? I'd been taught up to that point, I'd always sort of conceived of severe mental illness and people with severe problems as being very different, or fundamentally different from the rest of society. And my experiences on the psychiatric rotation sort of reinforced that. But here was someone that I knew one way, and now I was seeing another way. And it sort of challenged everything I'd ever considered and thought about mental illness. And so after this experience, it felt as if these mental health problems, the patients that I was seeing on the medical ward were kind of always there, and they were hiding in plain sight all along. And so what I previously thought of as labels that someone else should deal with became the real fabric of people's lives who were trying to make a better way. And the more that I sort of saw this and thought about it, the more I became attached to these people and the challenges that they were facing, and the goal to move forward in a better way. And eventually I found that I enjoyed this the most, and even more so than the lab data and the understanding the nuances of EKGs, which I'd enjoyed so much previously. And so eventually I switched into psychiatry and was later recognized as one of the best residents in my program. So I'd come a very long way from that first time nearly 15 years ago. I'd come a long way from that first exam that I nearly failed. And so now, almost 15 years later, I've continued to thrive, and that leads me to lesson number 3, which is to embrace medicine's potential as a force for good in our society. As COVID-19 continues to alter our lives in unforeseen ways, we are also amid a renewed reckoning with our troubled racial history. And medicine has its footprints all over this sordid past. both in its treatment of patients and its own providers. We've also arrogantly neglected to partner with those in education, the social sciences, philanthropy, law, and other fields who might teach us better ways to help the patients and communities we are supposed to serve. But a revolution of sorts has been taking place in medical schools nationwide over the last several years. Students are engaged in social justice causes to a degree inconceivable to my medical school generation. And one day, you will be the doctors for these patients and the teachers of the next crop of students. Medicine and society will be better for what you have brought to our profession. At the same time you focus on large-scale problems, however, please do not lose sight of the potential transformative power of each individual encounter with a patient or family. Several years ago, I was in my office getting ready to meet a new patient. And as I skimmed his record from the previous psychiatrist, I found myself wishing this visit was over before it even got started. The patient, the notes described as someone who was just completely different from me in every way. He enjoyed hunting, fishing, skydiving, race car driving, riding a motorcycle. These are all things that I either found boring or a little scary. And when he saw me, dressed in a bright, cream-colored outfit from head to toe, I'm not sure what I was thinking that day, he looked at me and frowned. This had all the makings of a one-and-done doctor-patient encounter. But a throwaway comment near the end of the visit led to a connection we both shared with our fathers. And from there, visit by visit, a long-term doctor-patient relationship ensued. One in which I helped him navigate his difficult transition to civilian life from his previous experiences having tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, although he no longer needs my care now, he still sends a note of thanks each year. So what I learned from our relationship is that when you feel uncomfortable because of cultural or racial differences, you should slow down in that encounter, not speed up. You should spend more time with that patient, not less. And that if you make the extra effort, you may just find that you have more in common than you could have ever imagined. And you will likely be a better person for it. So in summary, here are the 3 lessons that I laid out for you today. Number 1, use past failures as motivation to succeed with future goals. Number 2, be open to change based on what life presents you. Number 3, embrace medicine's potential as a force for good in society. And with that, I would like to thank you all again for allowing me to spend this time with you today. Congratulations once again to the FAU entering class of 2020.
Hi, my name is Scott Russo.
And I'm Abby Temple.
And we're members of the Elizabeth Blackwell Society. Although we cannot be in person today as we would love to be, today is still a great accomplishment and we would like to welcome you to FAU. As new students at the Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine, Blackwell is a name you're going to be hearing regularly. So it is important to understand who she actually was. As Dr. Blackwell was first beginning her medical career, there were many who doubted her abilities. During her time in school, she managed to not just earn the respect of her peers and professors, but also inspire those around her to hold themselves to a higher standard. She graduated at the top of her class in 1849 and became the first woman to earn a medical degree from an American medical school.
After graduating, Dr. Blackwell moved to Europe to gain practical experience during midwifery in London and Paris before returning to the US. 2 years later, soon after she returned, she opened an infirmary for women and children, which she later expanded to also serve as a nurses' training facility with the help of her younger sister, Dr. Emily Blackwell. In 1869, Dr. Blackwell returned to London to help establish and then teach at the London School of Medicine for Women, where she spent the rest of her medical career. This further accentuates her legacy of not only being the first female doctor in the US and Britain, but also making sure that many more would be able to follow in her footsteps. It is for this reason that one of our 2 academic societies was named the Elizabeth Blackwell Society. Much like the society's namesake, our college believes that not gender, but traits such as professionalism, leadership, and compassion are what determine whether or not someone will be a good doctor, and that a career in medicine is something that everyone should have an equal opportunity to pursue. We all welcome you as new members of the Elizabeth Blackwell Society and hope that you will all help to continue the legacy of Dr. Blackwell as pioneers in the field of medicine. We are so excited to welcome you all to the FAU family. Congratulations!
Good afternoon. My name is Shravya.
And I'm Michelle.
And we are members of the Charles Drew Society here at FAU's Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. On behalf of the class of 2023, welcome.
We understand the circumstances of your first year may not be ideal, but please know that our class is dedicated to supporting you through this transition.
So for all of you, part of the Cooler Society,
the Drew Society,
here's a little bit about Dr. Drew himself.
Dr. Charles Drew was a pioneer in the medical field. As an African American, Drew overcame numerous roadblocks, setting a working example for the progress that could be made not only in the medical field, but throughout society.
Dr. Drew earned his medical degree at the McGill School of Medicine. After graduating, Dr. Drew joined the faculty at Howard University College of Medicine, eventually becoming chief surgical resident at Freedman's Hospital.
While working further towards a doctorate in medical science at Columbia University, and being the first African American to receive such an honor there, Dr. Drew fell under the wings of prominent physicians Edward Lee Howes and Alan Whipple. Drew established his place in research of treating blood chemistry and preservation, shock, fluid balance, and transfusions. With this, he was able to open an experimental blood bank at New York Presbyterian, founded on the ability of blood to be processed, preserved, and transported for longer periods of time.
In September of 1940, Dr. Drew was called to direct the Blood for Britain project to assist Great Britain in World War II. He collected donations of blood from almost 15,000 people, saving thousands of lives of both military personnel and civilians. Drew unified the procedures and standards for collecting and processing blood plasma. While performing this amazing feat, Drew also became the first African American appointed as an examiner for the American Board of Surgery. With the end of the Blood for Britain in January of 1941, Dr. Drew was appointed Assistant Director of a pilot for a national blood banking system, ultimately leading to the creation of the American Red Cross Blood Bank.
Following the war, Dr. Drew sought to raise the standards for Black medical education and embrace Black physicians in the medical sphere. He devoted himself to training and mentoring medical students and surgical residents upon his return to Howard University and Freedman's Hospital as chair of the Department of Surgery and chief of surgery.
We hope that as new members of the Charles Drew Society, you will continue his legacy as a diligent and compassionate doctor, especially in the face of opposition.
Thank you, M2 class representatives. I would like to take a moment to thank and acknowledge all of our second-year medical students, the class of 2023, for their enthusiasm in serving as mentors to our new students and the efforts they have made and will continue to make to help them transition smoothly into medical school. Our Year 2 students paired themselves with a member of the class of 2024 earlier this week, and each M2 student wrote a personalized message that went along with the Gold Humanism Honor Society Keeping Healthcare Human lapel pin that were generously provided to us by the Arnold P. Gold Foundation and sent to the class of 2024. These lapel pins serve as a visual reminder to students that in order to deliver the best care to their patients, compassion and empathy must be the hallmark of their clinical practice. Class of 2024, as you prepare to enter the profession of medicine, we ask you to think of the people who mean the most to you, who've supported you, who believe in you. If you have someone with you now, give them your white coat. And as you hear your name being called, have them cloak you with your white coat, and maybe even give them a hug. Then take a picture to remind you of this very special day. After the ceremony, call or send a note to those people who came to your mind to thank them for the difference they have made in your lives. We will now begin with the announcement of the members of the Elizabeth Blackwell Society for the class of 2024. Students, these coats symbolize your entry into the medical profession and your commitment to uphold the highest ethical and professional standards. This white coat is the uniform of the healer, and you will slip your arms into its sleeves and tug its fabric over your shoulders. Each time you do, remember why you worked so hard to make it to where you are today, and the promises you will make when you recite your student oath.
Brian Blair. Kara Bushimi. Samantha Caballero. Maral Daniel. AJ Desai. Hania Diaz Ayun. Megan Jury. Amy Du. Nicholas Ehat. Talia Fradkin. Kisho Fukuoka. Ganesh Giri. Sean A. Griffin. Veronica Hagan. Keegan Held. Daniel Jacobs. Dalina Lafita. Jordan Lee. Hannah Levine. Brandon Macnofsky. Ashley McGrath. Michael Medlin. Daniel Padron. Sunil Raju. Nikita Rao. Neil Shaw. Jeremy Sims. Ryan Stalder. Orly Gonaz Terbei. Niyati Upadhyay. Agosa Urogide. Kaylin Wilkes. Rebecca Zhang.
Rama Abden. Sarvika Bomakanti. Lauren Breen. Thomas Cossette. Sarah Jane Cole. Simarsok Dillon. Joshua Drower. Aviv Elimelech. Karen Fishman. Madeline Faruhi. John Gao. Yusera Gate. Simran Ahmed. Lillian Hassanain. David Juriabi. Brandon Knapp. Sohini Lahiri. Samantha Matat. Jesse Maher. Alicia Myers. Feikimi Ogufua. William James Pallisseri. Jerry Chi. Katrina Ramsamuj. Karan Rajalingam. Melissa Rodriguez Suleiman. Ryan Saffer. Stephanie Salguero. Ariel Relsangwi. Quan Ta. Nika Vafadari. Celine Vartani. Peyton Yerke. Alexander J. Young.
Following a week-long orientation, our students have worked collectively to create their own oath, a code of conduct that they are committed to following throughout their education and as physicians after the completion of medical school. At this time, our students will recite their oath in unison, led by representatives from each learning community for this very important part of the ceremony.
As the students of Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine Class of 2024, we pledge to be respectful, inclusive, and culturally sensitive towards our peers and patients.
Embody anti-racism while actively combating healthcare disparities. Value the opportunity to learn medicine and recognize the privilege of serving patients.
Demonstrate high emotional intelligence to create a safe and inclusive environment that fosters open communication and trust. Exemplify professionalism, integrity, and respect for boundaries.
Commit ourselves to continually expanding our medical and cultural knowledge to benefit our patients. Collaborate with and empower our peers to create a non-competitive learning atmosphere.
Recognize our own limitations and be willing to embrace help from others. Provide attentive care to patients and lead with empathy.
Prioritize our own health and well-being so we may provide the highest standard of care. Hold ourselves and our peers accountable to the highest ethical standards.
Advocate for patients and serve as leaders in the greater community. Provide competent, humanistic, and compassionate care while prioritizing patient autonomy and confidentiality.
By embodying these tenets, we will commit ourselves to a life that will bring honor to our profession and, above all, do no harm.
We are delighted to discuss about the white coats that you will be wearing. These white coats have all been sponsored by very generous members of our community at large and our university community through a special fundraising campaign, the White Coats for Care campaign, co-chaired by Bonnie and John Kay of Kay Communications, Inc. Vital scholarship funds have also been raised through White Coats for Care. Once again, thank you to the Palm Beach County Medical Society and the Palm Beach County Medical Services Board for so generously donating new stethoscopes to each member of the class of 2024. We are most grateful for the continued support from Dick and Barbara Schmidt and the Schmidt Family Foundation for their vision of a biomedical science program and a medical school at Florida Atlantic University, and to all of you for your continued support of our students and college. We would like to say a special thank you to the College of Medicine's Advisory Board Chairman, Dr. Michael Dennis, for graciously sponsoring the class of 2024's membership into the Palm Beach County Medical Society. Dr. Dennis has supported the creation and growth of the college from the beginning. Without his vision and support, we would not be here today. Thank you, Dr. Dennis. We're now ready to conclude our ceremony. Class of 2024, you have received your first doctor's white coat and you have been placed into the service of humankind. A huge part of communication, as you'll learn, is nonverbal. We learn this and know this from love. So although key verbal communication skills are required, body language must also be learned. Touching communicates caring, compassion, and reassurance. Hold the patient's hand. Hug them, sit on their bed, and cry with them. Let them see that you care. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and suffer with them. The relationship with a patient and a family is an intimate one, and it requires cultivation. Nonverbal communication takes practice. Studies have shown that medical students become less compassionate towards the end of medical school. We don't want our students to fall into that predicament. So this is a quotation from a colleague, Dr. Catherine Treadway from Harvard Medical School. Says Catherine, when I was a third-year medical student doing my pediatric rotation, I was walking down the hospital corridor with my intern one night, making rounds on the recent admissions. He stopped at the door of a patient who I knew was not on our service. But he said, I need to see this patient and her family. I know them because she has been here several times before. When we walked into the room, I saw a 7-year-old girl lying on a bed. She was breathing the loud, liquid breaths I would come to know as the death rattle. Her skin was brilliant yellow, her abdomen massively swollen from the Wilms tumor that was killing her. She had no hair. It was the effects of her many bouts of chemotherapy, and her limbs were stick thin. With her were her parents and both sets of grandparents. When we walked in, her mother stood up. My intern walked over to her and put his arms around her, and they stood silently holding each other. After a few minutes, the mother stepped back and, looking at her daughter at the unbearable scene before her, said, you know, I never thought I would want her to die, but I want her to die. Somehow I pictured her in a field of flowers and she'd just be gone. I never thought it would be like this. My intern taught me a profoundly important lesson that night. Many doctors would have walked by that room because everything had been done. The diagnosis had been made, the correct treatment was given, the complications appropriately treated. And now the girl was dying and there was nothing more to do. What my intern taught me that night was that there was one more thing to do. Go into that room and offer whatever comfort his care and concern could bring, and to bear witness to the pain of that family. In the end, it was as important as anything else that had been done for that child. In the long years ahead, if you ask the mother what she remembered of that time, I suspect that one memory would be of my intern holding her. The lesson he taught me was that in the practice of medicine, the person you are is as important as what you know. This is one of the most extraordinary things about medicine. I say it's an intensely intellectual endeavor, demanding that you learn and understand an enormous body of information, and that you constantly update that information as new knowledge becomes available. But it is also an endeavor of the heart. And at the same time you're learning about disease and diagnosis and treatment, you are learning about illness, the patient, and yourself. Medicine is, after all, a labor of love. It is a calling and not a job. It is a life of service rather than a life of servility. It is about the people in your community. The love you give them is returned immeasurably to the apt physician. You have the chance to become fully immersed in the love of a place, your home. You become an integral part of the community and are loved as part of the architecture, or as the ancient landscape, a point of light in a brilliant and magnificent constellation. Colleagues, you have chosen a noble profession, and we are very proud of you. We wish you every success in your education, training, and in your life as a physician. This is the first step on a journey that will be most exciting, frustrating, but this will be a fantastic journey, the most fantastic journey you will ever take. And speaking for all the faculty, I welcome you on this journey. On behalf of the Schmidt College of Medicine and Florida Atlantic University, we thank all of our distinguished guests here today, especially our students and their families and friends, for attending this very special event and bearing witness as our students begin their lifelong journey of becoming physicians. Thank you all for joining us today. Congratulations, class of 2024.